Welcome to the North East Shadow MPC with Clive Owen LLP, Recognition PR and the Northern Echo. In this session, we regularly talk to business leaders from different sectors about what their business outlook is like and how they think the real Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee should act on the issue of interest rates. Elsewhere, national banks are in a cutting mood. The European Central Bank reduced rates last week by 0.25%. The Swiss National Bank cut its rate by 0.5% to only 0.5%. And in Canada, interest rates were reduced by 0.5% to 3.25%. Here in the UK, though, growth has slowed. We were the fastest growing economy in the G7 between January and June, but our GDP has not been following through, and you've seen growth going down, or the amount of growth going up, going down. Consumer confidence figures have been high and house prices have been resilient, so it's a mixed bag, really. As we record this discussion, inflation is 2.3%, but it's expected to go up when the latest figure is announced on Wednesday, just before the real Bank of England makes its business rate decision, its interest rate decision. So let's talk to some of our guests about what their outlook is like. We've got 8 people on our screen. There are 9 people on the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee. I make up the 9th on the Shadow NPC. I tell you what, I'll start because I'll just give you what my temperature check of the economy is. My firm serves lots of different clients in lots of different sectors. The only common denominator is none of them are going to accept the national insurance increases without taking some kind of action to protect their businesses. That might be price increases, investments sort of shelved, or in the worst case for people who work for them, job cuts. I haven't yet found a business that I work for that has said everything's going to be okay. They all have a more difficult outlook to face in 2025. That doesn't mean they won't get through it, but that's the realistic take that I've had from my client base. Paul Gibson of Active Financial, you give personal advice to people who have investments to make. What are you finding?
Well, obviously everything's been dominated with the budget announcements. My area is advising high net worth individuals and businesses. Obviously, the feedback since then has been extremely negative, particularly around the area of pensions and potential inheritance tax implications from April 27, but also the handful of farmers that I look after as well. You know, they're really up in arms with the potential changes that they may have to go through as well. So lots of thinking and lots of advice is going to be needed. What I wanted to just briefly touch on was, as you know, Graham, with your help, we do a quarterly client survey. And we've just got our latest quarterly results, which it's probably been the biggest reply we've had, a number of replies. And again, lots of comments on there. But there was 3 key stats from that. And these survey results came in on Friday. The first one is that 45% of respondents now feel less confident about their financial future than they did 3 months ago. So nearly half of the people that responded now feel much less confident. 2/3, 66% of people with the business changes are now really concerned about the future of their business. So that does echo what you're saying, Graham. But 2/3 are really concerned. And I'm getting that feedback from the business clients that I look after as well. They're really worried about the changes that are coming in. Employment, skills, all those sorts of areas, you know, cutting the apprentices, not growing as quickly as I feel they could do without the changes coming in. And the last one, which is around pensions, which is my key area of advice, is that 81% of people are now going to have to probably change strategy on their pensions moving forward, which again does give a little bit of a concern from my side, because most people are looking to either spend more or they're going to start gifting it to the family much sooner. My concern is that we don't derail any sort of financial plans for clients and that they don't run out of money through their lifetime. So it's certainly going to be a need for advice. So from our side, yes, we're going to be there to help these clients, but some quite challenging times on the horizon.
Of course, people's money that goes into pension funds is also invested by those pension funds. So that's a significant thing. Now, let's be more positive. What my approach is that people in business have to get their products sharp and then market their products. They've got to sort of defy the recession, if recession there is indeed going to be. So in order to market, you will be talking to third-party platforms like the Northern Echo. David, what is the take of your business at the moment?
I think the the eye opener for us was the tax increases. I think when we talked to customers out in the market, I think people were a bit surprised by the NI hike. The B2B sector, we publish a B2B magazine called Business IQ, and that puts us in contact with lots of businesses across the whole of the north of England. And the feedback that we're getting is that, yes, that's going to be a difficult pill to swallow. From our own business's perspective, that is something that we're just going to have to cut our cloth accordingly, and we're going to have to accommodate it as everybody else is. It's unwelcome, the additional cost, but I don't think it's not going to necessarily change our fortunes. We're not talking about significant restructuring or anything like that to accommodate it. We can get through, and I think that's generally the customers that we talk to. That's generally the approach. This is something that we're just going to have to accommodate and we get through, but it doesn't mean the end of the world.
And it's an interesting point. You just said everyone's affected, and I think that is the one. That is the one thing that is interesting about business reaction. It does affect everyone, which is bad because it's a big thing on the economy, but at least there isn't one sector that's more affected. So thanks for that, David. Let's go. We'll come back to you and your vote in a minute. Where's Clive Owen and Co? Let's talk to Nicola Belvey from Clive Owen LLP.
We've had a lot of feedback from clients, as you can imagine, and I think the word to describe it at the minute is they're being very cautious. We held some budget seminars, which was just a stunned silence from people, a standing room only. They're already suffering at the minute with their corporation tax hikes, which is 31st March 2024. They've had a full year of tax of 25% rather than 19% from the year earlier. The other thing we're seeing is that with the budget, the business asset disposal relief is going up as well, which actually means that if people are selling the business after April 2025, they will pay more tax on that. So we've had an influx.
Yes, people forget that. It didn't go up by as much as everyone thought, but it did actually go up.
Yeah, it went up, and it certainly makes a difference. And what's happening there is there's acceleration of people looking to sell the businesses or wind up the businesses. That coupled with the inheritance tax hikes, just making them feel, I think, that they're just going to cash things in and as Paul said, spend up. The pensions as well. The pensions coming into inheritance tax. It is making people really rethink. The employers and yes, most people are affected. I did some calculations just a minute before we came on, and a £30,000 salary is going to cost another £866 for the employer next year. If you have just a small handful of staff, say 6 people on £30,000, 5 people on £30,000, it is a little bit cheaper, the employers and if you've got 5 members of staff on that sort of salary. But most businesses have more than that, more people on that sort of salary, and their costs are just going up and up, really. So
okay. Nicola,
everybody's a little bit down with it.
Thank you, Nicola. Now let's go to Lift It All. We've got Kevin Brown on. He's new on the Shadow MPC. He runs Pacifica. Just tell us about your sector and what you think the future's looking like. Give us a little read it.
Yeah, I can hear me.
Yep.
Good. So, our business is, we have a lot of people, we employ a lot of people, so over 500 people employed, and half of those are highly skilled engineers. So we are significantly affected by the budget, and that's unavoidable for us in the main. So we will be doing a number of things, and obviously we're very tech driven, so we'll be doing a lot of tech things to reduce the impact. And then there'll be a bit of outsourcing of some roles, and some of the outsourcing may be overseas. So I think the difficulty for Rachel Reeves is she's produced a number, an expected number, and there will be most businesses that will be working very hard for her not to achieve that. And, what is going to be the outcome when, the number that she's expecting doesn't come in. So we'll have to wait and see what effect that has.
It's a very good strategic point, that, Kevin. Very good.
Yeah, so,
And just remind people what you do, because not everyone has seen your face on the Shadow MPC before. What does your business do?
So predominantly we do two things. So if you go out and buy an appliance for your kitchen and it breaks down during the manufacturer's warranty period, we will come out and fix it. So our big clients are Electrolux, Sony, LG, Argos, AO, those types of guys. And we also sell extended warranty to protect customers against the cost. So from an activity point of view, if people buy less appliances, then they're more likely to get the old ones fixed. So we get repairs on both sides. That isn't going to be a big factor for us. But what is going to be a factor for the economy is we're going to put our prices up. That means automatically the price of appliances has to go up. That means inflation is going to go up.
Yeah.
So the Rachel Reeves effect is going to drive inflation. And, my vote is to keep the interest rate the same, because I think a cut would make that worse.
Okay, fair point. Okay, we might not come back to you for your vote explanation now, because you have said that, but that's great. Let's move on to the next person, Nick Pope, Premier Tech, Water and Environment. Nick, good to hear from you again. Where are you on your economy, and where's the business sector like at the moment for you?
It's a bit of a mixed bag for our industry. I'd say product sales that we do has really dropped off very, very significantly. And talking to the industry, not just for us, it's potentially down. So what I would put that down to is people putting off purchasing decisions as long as they possibly can. We also maintain, install, service, commission. That side of things is stayed fairly strong. So we're quite pleased on that side of things. I'd say again, I'd probably repeat really what the message is, particularly Kevin's. I think I really agree that in the middle of next year, this is going to be very inflationary. What has happened? It'll probably start from early in the year and push on through. I think as well, it's people I talk to are hesitating about recruiting. So they're not saying they're not going to recruit, but they're being cautious. There's another thing that in the people I talk to, we don't employ a huge amount of people, but people who do are also talking to me about the changes to the employment laws that are going to come in as well. Obviously, day one rights and so on. So there's a lot of caution I'm hearing about employing. And again, to Kevin's point, you hire less people or you let people go, tax take goes down, benefits goes up. So I don't know how much of is going to be delivered by it. I'm not saying we didn't need to do something, but I think there are some knock-on effects that we'll see in the early part of next year, I believe.
Nick, that's great. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. We're not going to debate the politics of the budget. We're only here to talk about the economy, so don't worry about your answers. Don't have to feel guilty or frame it in politics. John Cartwright, Constructing Excellence. You look after, or members of your organisation are construction firms and related suppliers. What are they saying?
Yeah, as you know, I represent a vast and wide and diverse and exciting construction sector. Good to see there's a couple of members on the calls today. Three key things from me. The government's announced a bit of a planning overhaul. So they're relaxing and they're accelerating some planning, which will obviously try and strategic some housing, which I'm going to come to in a minute. Locally, we've got carbon capture, a usage and storage project that's just been announced for Teesside, which is exciting for the region, which we can get lots of people employed in there. But the main thing I'm going to touch on, I always do touch on this, working at Hartlepool College, is skills. So the government's announced that there's going to be £140 million skills hubs that's going to be dotted around the region to try and help people, because the government's announced that they're looking to build 330,000 houses a year, considering we're building at this moment in time 220,000 houses a year. So we're saying that there's not enough skills out there. A quarter of the workforce are over 50, and we've lost an awful lot to the EU. they've returned home. So we're looking to try and fill those gaps. But the way the government are looking at this moment in time, this £140 million skills hubs would be better spent by partnering with education and looking at the current pipeline, which is already there within further education and training providers.
Well, John, that's very succinct. Thank you very much. And a bit positive as well, which was nice to give it a lift.
Christmas, very positive.
Yeah. All right, let's talk to Gavin Caldwell-Smith. A nice segue to that, because you do construction and you also have a lot of plans for garden villages and things like that. And you also supply the construction sector, Helen Scoop. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, so like we see, Graham, we cover construction, property, and manufacturing. We've got businesses in all three of those sectors, and I think in theory people are busy at the moment, but it's I think my concerns further down the line. Certainly in the construction side, we are seeing contractors looking for work at the moment. We've just let a large infrastructure contract, and we had 9 or 10 major civil engineering firms who were interested in tendering for that work. There's not the same pipeline of work coming through at the moment, and that's probably the impact of the higher interest rates that we've had over the last sort of couple of years. So there's not as many schemes starting, and they're not getting past the drawing board essentially. So yes, I take on board some people's thoughts on inflationary pressures sort of post spring, but actually it's the pipeline of work that's maybe 12-24 months down the line that's maybe a bit more of a concern. In our manufacturing business, our volumes have been lower this year, but we anticipated that after the sort of
and you make paving stones and things like that, flagstones.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. So it's concrete paving products predominantly. We're doing a lot in the R&D environment at the moment in terms of looking to lower our carbon footprint. So we're looking as a business towards innovation to help with our products and add value and make our products more environmentally friendly to look to increase volumes. But volumes have been lower this year, and I think next year we see demand being down. I think your sentiments earlier on, Graham, about potential recession. That's my concern, I would say, going forward.
Excellent, thank you. Last but not least, Heather Hewitt from JH Mechanical and Electrical. Just remind us what your business does and what you think the economy in your sector is.
Hi, yes. I work for an engineering company. It's my husband and I set it up 11 years ago, and we've been growing really strongly over the last 11, 12 years. We work predominantly in the commercial sector and work a lot for universities, schools, and have nursing homes. They're very much contract-driven work. And the engineering sector, as far as I can see, is we're service driven, so we do a lot of repairs, maintenance, and we also do installation work. And certain areas of the business are quite robust because you have to do it legally. There's maintenance work that needs to be done. But when it comes to repairs and when it comes to huge estates which need investment, there's a real difficulty, I think, out there for people to invest. We've got this target of net zero by 2050, but then when you've got this ever decreasing budget, what do you invest in? Well, you invest in the cheapest option, which isn't always the greenest. We're seeing real challenges, I think, out there, not just from ourselves, but also from the sector that we represent in investing in infrastructure, which, is really, really difficult at the moment, I think, in the current environment. I noticed there's a lot of references to skills and skill shortages in the sector, and I would absolutely agree with that. The difficulty that you have, and this is no disrespect to the FE sector, but when you've got people who are in industry sought after and they're on very high wages, I think, compared to maybe 20, 30 years ago in the same industry, how do you encourage them to come in and teach what they know? It's very difficult because what you need is if you remember it, the long limbs of old, where you have a lot of people who've been in industry who then go in to teach it later on in life. That's just disappeared to a larger extent. And so therefore, what we're finding is the people who are coming through the traditional routes need a lot more support. But then the government's now just raised the minimum wage. which makes it very difficult to invest in those young people to the extent that we'd like to. It takes them longer to get them where we need to be. So, and yet we've got an aging population. So we've got a number of challenges, I think, moving forward to actually, deal with the underlying issues of the investment and in the right sort of infrastructure, and to service that with, an economy that's, and skill sets which are becoming quite scarce locally. And of course, we used to supplement that with, labour from abroad, but that's got very expensive to bring in and they have to pay to come and work here. So it's very, very challenging because we've got a small pool of people now that we all are vying for. So that's going to raise the inflation of wages moving forward, which we've then got to find a way to either pass on or absorb. So these are the real issues of the day. We are growing as a company. My forecast, I think, over the next year is that we won't grow as quickly. We'll have to find, areas that we can, like you always do, to try and absorb some of that, those increasing costs, because we can't afford not to have the staff that we need. But, it's a mixed bag, and I'm still not convinced at the moment that we've got everything clear about how the economy is going to go when, we're set to grow and double our workforce probably in the next 10, 20 years. And I'm just trying to assess now over this next year whether that needs to be downgraded slightly as a growth projection for our company. We will still grow, we will still progress, but you're looking at a company now that possibly isn't going to grow as strongly as it used to, and therefore not invested in as many skills.
Okay, Heather, thank you. We've got to move on, but thank you. That was very informative, particularly as you're relatively positive. Right, okay, what I'm going to do is going to ask you one by one, go round and answer the question, would you put rates up, would you hold rates, or would you reduce rates? I'll start, and just if we do it the way I'm doing it, just a very short reason. So I would reduce rates by a reasonable amount because we've got international competition, but more significantly, in my experience, I haven't heard the kind of thing I'm hearing from my client base since 2008. And in 2008, the bank didn't cut rates quickly enough, and it had lots and lots of cuts until it got to the point they couldn't put them back up again. Notwithstanding the points that Kevin has made about, and others, about inflation, I think there needs to be a signal in cutting rates now, because there is some serious doom and gloom out there. That's not a positive reason to cut rate. It's negative, but I'm a cutter. Paul Gibson, your view and why?
I'm going to sit on the fence and say that I'm going to vote for a hold this time round. I am concerned about the UK and the economy. We've had a couple of falls. The trajectory is for downturn in rates. Keep one eye on the 10-year gilt yield, which is currently about 4.3 today. And I think we will see inflationary pressures. So at the minute, I think it's going to be prudent to hold, fire, and then wait till next year.
Thanks, Paul. I'm moving on to David.
Yeah, I'm similar view. I'd hold. I'm a bit worried about inflation.
Okay. Nick Pope. No, you're on mute, Nick.
Sorry, yeah, just realised. I would cut Graham. I would echo your comments completely. I think we need to do something now and go quick rather than too late.
Gavin Caldwell-Smith.
Yeah, I would go for a cut at 0.25%. I'm looking beyond the sort of shorter term inflationary pressures, looking further down the line. I think I think volumes are going to be down. I think the economy is going to struggle. And I think the Bank of England were potentially too slow to increase rates, and they're in danger of being too slow to reduce them. I think they need to be looking further ahead.
Okay, Heather Hewitt.
I would hold for now. I would like to see what the next quarter brings.
Okay, John Cartwright.
Hold them for now, Graham.
You're holding
next time.
Okay, Nicola Bellaby.
Yeah, I would have said reduce them, but I've changed my mind to a hold after the budget, because I just think that inflation's going to run away with us otherwise.
I think we've had everyone, but Kevin, have you kept your holding position, or do you want to reduce them now?
I would give it a hold. I just think we need to see two things: the effect of the budget, effect on inflation. I just think she's got her calculations all wrong on how much she's going to get back from business.
I think you're right there. Okay, let's do a quick show of hands. So hold. What? Right. You got that. Thank you. Got counted up and cut. 3 cutters, the rest hold. Thank you very much, everyone. That's this week's and the last Shadow MPC for the North East of 2024. We'll be back before the Bank of England next year, as ever, trying to get ahead of what they say. Let's see what the Bank of England do. I suspect they'll follow what we've said. Thank you very much for joining us.